Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, we have John Griffin, managing partner of SSG Companies, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices he's learned, and challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome, John. Thanks so much for being on the show. Great to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
Well, before we dive into all things business, I'd love to share with the audience a little bit about you. So take us back as far as you'd like. Share a bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. I got into my present business by accident almost. I graduated with an electrical engineering degree at a time when companies were taking electrical engineers and using them to do all sorts of computer work. So I wanted to get into a business that I could have as my own. Talked to my then newly married father-in-law, and so he was in this business. We began to talk about it, and so here I am, 40 some odd years later, having gotten into the business straight out of college, started it, and been in one city all of my working life. So that's how I got started.
Oh, wonderful. Excited to dive into the journey of, SSG companies. So let's kind of dive in. Tell us about the company, SSG companies. It says companies, is it multiple? Kind of give me a backstory of what the company or companies is and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, yeah. The company, SSG Companies, the formal name of the company is SSG Financial Group, but it's got some other things associated with it, so it's just easier to call it SSG Companies whenever we talk. Essentially, the areas that we work in are we do wealth transfer work for high net worth individuals. That began many years ago. We were doing insurance work for those people, and I began to see that more and more those clients were not getting the kind of strategies and legal and accounting support that they needed in the area. And so consequently, we began and started a planning practice where we would then illustrate to clients what they could be doing, explain to them on an ongoing basis how those strategies would work and how they were working once they were in place. And then we coupled that with our insurance practice, and it became kind of the big core of our business. So virtually all of our business revolves around high net worth individuals who typically own closely held businesses. Some do not, but for the most part, they do. And so that sort of branched out into the second part of our practice, which is what we call the business transitions portion of the practice, where we have a client who has developed and grown a business over time, and now he's looking for a way in which he can exit that business. And so we then have a process that we use to examine all of the alternatives that he has and give him the essentially the information that he needs in order to make that transition. Um, and that, in fact, led us into what we now is kind of a third rail of our business, and that is ESOP work. We work with a consultant, have worked with a consultant over the past 15 years who does ESOP work, puts ESOPs together. And it began with a client that we had who were doing a business transfer. We had finished up his wealth transfer plan. We began to focus on, okay, now what are we going to do with this business? He had no children to come into the business. And so we began to look at all the alternatives. And ESOPs became one of those alternatives that we examined. He eventually did the ESOP, became a very large ESOP over time, and so we now work a good bit in that area in the funding of the repurchase liabilities that they have.
Oh, wonderful. And just for clarification for our audience, it's Employee Stock Ownership Plan is the ESOP, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's dive into kind of like the company structure now. Are you the sole owner? Do you have partners? And what does that look like for you?
Well, the company back when I created the company, I'm a resident of Texas, and at the time, the best way to have a business organization was through a Texas limited partnership. So SSG Financial Group is structured as a Texas limited partnership. And there we have a corporation that is the general partner that I'm the president of. And then my wife and I are the sole limited partners of the partnership. So, for all intents and purposes, it's a sole proprietorship, but it operates as a partnership.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the breakdown on that. Now, looking at the employees of, do you currently have employees in the business? And if so,
Yes, I do. I
okay,
do.
wonderful. How many do you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah, right now we only have one employee of the business, longtime assistant of mine who's worked with me for 35 years. What's enabled us to do that is the fact that we are part of an organization which actually is headquartered in Austin, Lion Street, and we work a lot with other Lion Street owners and outsource. For example, there will be someone who will have a specialty in an area that we will plug in and utilize as we do cases across the board. It's been a very beneficial relationship for us over the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love the connection to Austin. That's cool.
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, so now looking at your, like we talked about your types of like your clients, your business structure. Now, how are you getting the word out about your services? Is it word of mouth, LinkedIn? Is it a little bit of everything?
Well, we do a good many things. The primary marketing focus is really getting referrals from centers of influence that we have. I would say probably 80 to 90% of our revenues are driven by referrals from centers of influence. And so we spend a good bit of time on that, as you might suspect. But we also do some things. We do some email drip campaigns. Essentially, those are more educational, where we know or we have maybe a list of prospects that have particular needs in a particular area. And so, what we try to do is over time drip a little bit of education on them about not only about what we do, but just what they can do. Because oftentimes people in business get out there on islands and they don't get a lot of information. So we try to do some education. And then in the past, 9 to 10 months, maybe a little bit longer, we've been doing more and more work on LinkedIn. Um, and and we found the interactions from LinkedIn to be good. We you have a certain amount of traffic, which is just a waste of time. But then there's a good bit of traffic where people, because of whatever they're interested in, find you, and so that becomes good. So we're doing a little bit of all of that, and we try to stay in touch with our clients and make certain that everything's going well. And that usually is a good marketing tool as well.
Oh, I completely agree. Like just keeping the relationship going, good communication. Those are some of like the best tools in the tool belt to have as a business owner.
Yeah, they are.
Well, I'd love to move into now a little bit about what the future looks like for your company. Where do you see the company going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'm having a conversation now with my oldest son, who's an attorney in Houston, about joining us. But what I see happening over the next 3 to 5 years is I think our wealth transfer practice will continue to be good. Um, Fortunately, we have some permanency to the estate tax laws at this point, which we haven't had. That's always been kind of a bread and butter area for us. And so we're planning on expanding that more and more. Also, one of the areas that we're doing quite a bit of work in is in the ESOP area, where we're actually putting together funding plans for the repurchase liability that ESOP companies have once they put an ESOP in place. So,
Lots of growth on the
yeah.
horizon. Okay, so now looking at challenges, because we all know as in the world of business ownership, there's a lot of challenges that come up. So we like to share with with our network or with our listeners and viewers that they're not alone. We're all going through the bumps in the road as business owners. So what is something that has challenged you recently in business?
Well, I think, you know, and I think all of us face this. It's the challenge that you have of being able to communicate a value proposition. In business, we all strive to have some sort of value that we bring to the table. And so being able to communicate that then becomes a challenge to the audience that you want to attract. And that's, you know, we've gone through the last several years a whole host of media events that turned out not to be true. And so sometimes it's very difficult for people to be able to trust the voice that they hear. It used to be if it was on television or in the newspaper, it was true, but that's not altogether the case anymore. So the real challenges come in communicating the value proposition in a manner that not only can the person who could benefit from it understand it, but they can, then take action on it. So that's probably the biggest hurdle that we have.
Oh, definitely. I completely understand where the news is just, yeah, it's kind of doing its own thing right now, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, so what are some ways you're like trying to remedy or solve that challenge?
Well, fundamentally, the answer to that is to develop a level of trust where people can, they can take what you say at face value and believe what you say. So, you know, you try to one operate with integrity, and even in times when maybe people don't quite understand where you're coming from, you don't kick them to the side. You basically say, "Well, I understand where you're coming from," and you go on. So that's always going to be part of the selling business. I think it's you're going to have to deal with a certain amount of rejection, a certain amount of miscommunication, because you will say something, and then if somebody repeats it back to you, it's completely not what you said. So oftentimes it's a problem of just getting on the same page. But beyond that, it's developing a level of trust where people can take what you say and then they can begin to act on it.
Mm, that is true. It's like just like building rapport, continuous, like keeping the pulse and that again, it's a relationships and communication are like
Yeah,
golden nuggets for
yeah, they
business.
are.
Oh, wonderful. Well, this has been a great conversation so far. Thank you for sharing about your business. And now I want to take us through our rapid fire questions.
Sure,
It's yep, just feel free to answer top of mind, and there's going to be 4 questions.
sure.
All right. Question number one is what is the key to success for you?
Key to success for me is my relationship with God, pure and simple.
100%. 100% feel you there. Number two is what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Well, I think one, don't get caught up in the maelstrom and the chaos that sometimes, is around you. Kind of keep your head about you and try to focus on your goal and stick with it. Because sometimes in the middle of the storm, you can get your eyes off your goal.
Yes, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh, Number three is what is a piece of content? It could be a book you've read, a podcast you've listened to, an article, anything that's just resonated with you recently.
Well, I read quite a bit, so sometimes it runs together. The uh, but a podcast that I've listened to, and it's not just one particular segment of the podcast, but it's a podcast that I've begun to listen to. It's the All In podcast. It's four tech guys that they've made money, and but they continue to be entrepreneurs, and they begin, and they'll examine what's going on in the economy and with government and the like. And the funny part of it is they're good friends and they will argue with one another because they're such good friends. And so one will have one point of view and the other will have another. But all of them smart guys. In their own way, they're all very smart about what they're doing. Bottom line, it's been good to hear friends who don't always disagree agreeably. So that's been a good thing for me.
Oh, I love a good podcast, especially one
Yeah,
that is like you're like, hi, totally am learning and growing.
yeah,
Amazing. Final question in the rapid fire, and feel free to take your time on this one a little bit.
sure.
If I were to give you a magic wand and you could rapidly improve one aspect of your business overnight, what would it be?
Mm, boy, that does. I think it would be the probably a more developed marketing plan. I think that if I could do that one thing, we work on that hard, but it's something that you're continually working on and trying to improve. But if I could somehow wave a wand and it would all be fixed and really work well, I'd be really happy.
Yes, that is a big one. Thank you for sharing that. This has been a great
Yeah.
conversation. Before we get to our final question, let's help with that marketing right now.
Oh, yeah.
How can folks get connected with you and your business online?
My name is John Griffin. We have a website, www.ssgfingrp.com. Uh, my email address is jgriffin, Griffin, at ssgfingrp.com. Either one of those are great ways to get in touch with me. And I often tell somebody, if they can't get a hold of me, they didn't try. So,
I like that. John, well, this has been a super fun conversation. For our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
uh, the thing that's most inspiring to me, we're at Christmas time, and probably the thing that's most inspiring to me is we get to have all of our family will come and gather together at our place. We have a ranch in East Texas, and so they will come from Houston and Dallas and Shreveport, and we'll gather there for 4 or 5 days. And it's inspiring to me to watch the children and the grandchildren as they interact with one another and grow.
Aw, I love that. That's really, it's so beautiful. Thank you so much for this inspiring conversation today.
You bet. You bet.